Okay.
Hi guys, I am Maggie Paredes, aka Maggie Paredes, at Maggie Paredes Author,
I'm Ashley, and I'm at Ashley Reads 13.
and we are here with Jenni Bayliss, and we are interviewing her for some of her books, namely her newest, right? Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, which has been all over Instagram and is such a hit. So thanks for joining us, Jenni.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
I feel like I'm fangirling a little bit right now, even though I haven't read your books yet, but I've seen them everywhere. So I'm like super excited just to talk to you. And I'm going to read your books. They're on my in my Amazon cart right now. So I'm excited.
It's so funny because in Britain it's not everywhere. So so for me it's such a thrill when I see people have taken pictures of it in in Target and in Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, yay, there it is, because it's it's not so much over here.
I totally get it. It's like a trip to see your book online and in different platforms. So kudos. Like, is it going to be, I guess we could jump into that, but I just kind of want to know first, like, tell us a little bit about you. Like, how did you start writing?
Well, I was one of those people that was always writing. So and even like when the kids were small, it was like my guilty secret. Every time they took a nap, I'd be like scribbling something. And I was always sending stuff off to publishers, and I just I didn't get anywhere. So I just I just had a different life. I just had jobs and brought up my family, and did all those things, and just kind of like scribbled away in the meantime. And then when I was about, because I kept getting all these near misses, I kept getting publishers would say, oh, it's we really like it if it was just a little bit this or a little bit that or a bit shorter, or and I didn't really know how to edit. Because I hadn't been to university or anything, so I just didn't really know what I was doing. So when I was 39, I was working as a baker, and I thought, oh, I'll go to university. I'll put myself through university, because I'd never done that. Probably a bit of a midlife crisis, and so I did that like part time. So that took 6 years, because I obviously had to carry on working, and then coming up towards the end of my degree, had a neck injury that meant I had to have surgery. So I had to stop baking. So then I was unemployed and like recovering from surgery. So I thought, right, I'm going to write, I had this idea for a Christmas book, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to write it. I'm clearly unemployed. I'm not doing anything else. So I did that, and I sent it off, and my agent, she was like, who wasn't my agent then, but I sent it to her. She was like, yeah, I think this could work. And when it's like 20 years I've been doing this, and I had like so many rejections, like 80 at least. And then for someone to go, yeah, no, I think this could work. I was like, what? And so, it was a weird one. It's like, it was, the universe was like, I'll throw you a curveball. What I'll do is I'll put your neck out, so you have to stop baking and you have to write a book.
It's like a lucky chance,
Yeah.
Amazing.
I love that. And now you have 3 books out, right? Because Meet Me Under the Mistletoe is your 3rd one that's been published, right?
Yes, that's it. So I've got 3 children's books, and one YA as well, but they're like sort of just in Europe, really. And then the 3 adult novels that are in the US and the UK.
Darn,
That's awesome.
like, yeah, like, we're teachers, so I was like, dude, we could totally check out your kids' books, but you're saying they're not available in the US, so maybe that'll change sometime.
Oh, I mean, I would love that. That would be, I would love that, because I love writing for middle grade as well.
Awesome.
We love that. So when you sit down and write, or when you've always been writing, do you have like a plot outline that you follow, or do you just like fly by the seat of your pants?
Some and some. So quite often what happens is the idea will generally just pop in there. It's like a weird you know, who knows, I'm normally cleaning the bathroom. Weirdly, I don't know why that seems to be the thing. And so then I'll have an idea, and quite often I know I'll get like a beginning, I'll have like a scene, and I'll be like, ooh, and then I'll be like, and I'll kind of have the end of the book as well, and I'll be like, oh, okay. And then so the rest of it, sort of, I don't really plot it out as such, but I kind of know where I've got to get to. I know where I'm going to start, I know where I'm going to end. I generally know something that's going to happen in the middle, and then it's a case of getting there. And sometimes I work quite linear, but then other times, if I'm not feeling it, you know, because sometimes like you're just like, oh, I'm stuck, oh, that's it, and then I get all dramatic, you know, oh, that's it, I've lost it, I've lost it, I can't write. And then so then I just have to go, right, okay, calm down and just write. You know, you like sort of the idea of chapter 30, so write chapter 30 today, and don't worry about chapter 15, worry about that another day. So then I'll do that, and then so then quite often I'm sort of, I have like all these jigsaw puzzle pieces that I put together at the end. So it sounds like chaos. It feels less chaotic when I'm doing it. I realize that I'm making it sound really bad.
Well, that's like
no,
really
that's good.
inspiring. Sorry, Ash.
No, that's good. So do you have like do you know how many chapters of a book you're gonna have? So then you know, like, hey, I'm gonna put this one right here, but later on I know that this needs to happen for these characters to X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you have like that kind of outline?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know like how many chapters I'm gonna have, but I kind of know, I sort of can. So what I'll just have is a lot of titles that just say new chapter, or you know, chapter where such and such does this. And then sometimes I'll write myself really helpful notes that at the time they feel they're helpful, and then I'll put back, like, you know, like the next time I'm there and I'm like, oh really, and I've put something like, you know, put something interesting here, and I'm like, oh great, thanks, that was really helpful, me of yesterday. So yeah, it's sort of, yeah, kind of goes like that.
For me, that's so inspiring. Just real quick, like that, you know, as an author, like who's also a teacher, it could be tiring to have to sit down and write when on my Saturday when I'm off and I'm trying to recover. So just write a chapter, you know, that's just a reminder to me, just one. Like you don't have to sit there and pin the whole book, but I just drag my feet. And so like that is so inspirational for me because it's a reminder to me that I can just write one chapter and I'll be okay, you know?
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be in order. That's the thing. It's like you're running away from writer's block, you know, like writer's block's here, and you're like, no, you're not going to get me today because I'm going to write a chapter up there. So I'm still writing. You haven't got me. And you just, you know.
That is so cool. That's such a cool idea. I love that. Okay, so your first book, tell us about, or even the book that just came out, like tell us what inspired you to write that particular story.
Meet Me Under the Mistletoe was, I just sort of had this feeling about friends, you know, like when so when you're at school, your friends that you have, and you don't always keep those friends. But you know, some people do, but you change so much, and I think there's a really interesting sort of dynamic with that. You know, I've got some friends that I've had that we can not see each other for a year, and then we pick up, and we've known each other forever, and you just pick up where you've left off. And it feels like nothing's changed, but of course you've all changed. We've all been through. So, you know, especially by the time you get to I mean, I'm in my late 40s now. So, you know, I'm very different from what I was when I was 16. And I kind of like that. So I wanted them to be in their 30s. I like that sort of, because you've kind of moved away from that kind of craziness of your 20s, where you're still sort of living off your teenage years, like nothing really matters because I'm just in my 20s and I'm so youthful, and you haven't quite reached your 40s where you're like, yeah, you know, it's like sort of slippers and a cup of tea before bed at 9, but you're in between times, you know. And so I think that's really interesting, and especially for friends that sort of come back together. Maybe they've had a break from each other. So in this book, they were really, really tight, and then they had a break from each other. They just naturally went their separate ways, and then the death of one of their friends brings them back together again. And so it's that sort of how they are when they come back together. And obviously, you know, there's romance and sort of factored in there as well. But yeah, I think that was sort of, I think I had it was a few years ago. It was an old friend of mine. He took his own life, and I hadn't really, you know, had much contact with him for a few years, because we had drifted, as all of us had, and we all got back together to go to the funeral, and it was a strange sort of nostalgic time, you know, and we were remembering him, and we were remembering how we used to be, and of course we were very different people, and we all said, oh, we'll keep in touch, we'll absolutely keep in touch, but we didn't. And I think that maybe for us there was sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you just sometimes it's not right to get back together, because maybe there's too much water under the bridge. But for this group, I wanted to explore what would happen if they did actually stay together and stay in contact.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I love your character's name too. How do you pronounce Eleanor? How do you pronounce her name? Eleanor?
Eleanor.
Eleanor. Okay, so my grandmother's name is Eleanor. So I am obsessed with your character's name. Can you tell me how you came up with the names for any of your characters?
Most of them just sort of pop in there, really. I mean, I think the blokes' names were slightly easier because they'd gone to a private school, so they were always going to be named things like Charles and and Jeremy and those kind of names. And for Eleanor, she was always in my head. She was Norrie, and she was just like, and she was kind of there already. So, and then everybody else sort of grew around her, and I knew that Amira was going to be, you know, fabulously gorgeous and, you know, hugely intelligent, and Pippa, just, she is the sort of person she's very straight talking, and she just doesn't take any nonsense, and I felt like a Pippa would be like that. So most of the characters there, it was, I guess it's names that I felt suited their personalities. There's probably, you know, Pippa's like everywhere really offended that I've said they're straight talking, and, you know.
Yeah, that kind of goes into the next question. Is there any part of you in the stories that you write, whether it be with the characters or the setting?
I think there is, I guess, you know, it's that old thing, isn't it? Write what you know. So I suppose there is always a little bit of me in there somewhere, you know, like with in 12 Dates, there's a cafe. In A Season for Second Chances, there's a cafe, and obviously my background is working in cafes and baking and cakes and all that kind of stuff. In this one, there is obviously the friendship group, and there's a lot of gardening, and I really like gardening. So it's, yeah, I mean, there's no characters that are based on me or anyone I know, but equally there are elements that I sort of know and love that I put in there. I think I'd probably find it hard to set something in space or something like that. You know, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't have that. Maybe I haven't got enough sort of. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's easier if you know something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes me think of, like, for example, today, my students and I started a narrative writing unit. And I was like, hey, your teacher knows something about this. So we were able to talk about, like, writing what we know. And we talked about how narrative writing can be personal or fictional. And, you know, but we write what we know. And we were writing about space. We're learning about that in third grade right now. And so I was able to help them relate it back to the story that they were reading. So, but, you know, that creativity sense of being able to write about things you don't know, like adding in, things to your story. Just a random question. Excuse me. Were you able to do that? Like with any of your stories, just something popped up that you didn't know anything about and like you had to do research on it?
Um, there was some of the things I did. So for Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, I did look into, because I've always liked the look of the Dutch masters, the paintings of the flowers and the still lifes and all that kind of stuff. And I had to, and botanical art as well. But I like it I've always liked it in a sort of fleeting way, it's just sort of like, oh, nice. And so I needed to sort of double down a bit on that and do a bit more research, which was really nice because it was an excuse to buy some really nice books with lovely pictures in that my husband then has to build more shelves for. So, as if any of us need an excuse to buy more books.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time. So you write books mainly about the holidays, the adult books at least. What is your favorite holiday tradition?
Oh, crikey. Favorite holiday tradition. I really like it when, I guess they've changed over the years, as as like the family grows and everything. So, but now my kids are sort of all grown up and left home. I love it when they come home and we're all in the same place. I've got all my ducks in a row, and we watch a Christmas movie, and it's very often National Lampoon's Christmas, which just doesn't get old for me. So yeah, I think it's probably now, when the kids were smaller, I guess it was like, we used to make Christmas stockings or Christmas cookies together and all those kind of things. And now they're older, it's much more just about sort of having everyone in the same room, not the same town.
Yeah.
Completely. Like I live in Florida, my family lives in Texas, and this is the first time in like 2 years that I've been able to come home for Christmas. Like I did go home last year, but there's something different about the holidays. Like I went home during the summertime. So there's something different about the holidays. It's going to be like 11 of us. So that's beautiful.
That'll be lovely.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. The older you get, I guess, the more you cherish your family. So, being able to see everyone and be in one place, that's beautiful.
And it's the only good part about, about your kids leaving home is that homecoming. There's nothing quite like it, when you haven't sort of seen them for a couple of months or whatever, and then they knock on the door and you're like, they're here, and it's the only like the sort of the joy part of them having sort of grown up and left home, which of course you want them to do that. You spend all their childhood saying you can do anything you like, go out, spread your wings, go into the world, and then they do it and you're like, they just left me.
Yeah.
But
well, like, random question, would you ever consider writing a story about something like that?
Yeah, I would. I would, and I quite like. With the season for Second Chances, I got to push the boundaries a bit because that was about an older protagonist. I mean, say older, she was like 44, which isn't, it's not old. But in terms of rom-coms, particularly holiday rom-coms, it is. But I really liked that. I really liked writing about somebody who was a bit more with a bit more baggage, which I speak from experience. So I'm not just sort of saying that all people in their 40s have baggage. I'm just talking about, me personally, I've got some life behind me now. So yeah, I'd quite like to explore writing about slightly older protagonists, so that we have got a bit of, we've still got a bit of pizzazz. We've got a bit of life behind us. We're quite interesting, really. Don't write us off just because, we've got rounder bottoms when we're in our 40s. And
which we try to fight against. I'm almost 40. I'm like, no.
Oh no, embrace it. It's lovely. It is lovely because the older you get, the more you get. I can't swear on here, but basically, you give less of a monkeys, and the older you get, the less monkeys you give. And so, and your 40s is when that really starts to happen.
I love that. I'm almost there actually. So I don't know. Am I sure that I'm 39? Or am I?
I still got 10 years left to go. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm 29. So I'm like,
oh,
I want to be 30, but at the same time, I'm like, well, you know, that I'm getting older, then I can't go do the things that 20-year-olds do all the time, you know. Like, it's funny. I went and visited Maggie. Maggie will laugh at this. And I made them stay at, she lives by Disney. So I made them stay at Magic Kingdom all day long. And she doesn't do that. She goes for like, what, 3-4 hours?
Because we're Floridians. We can go anytime.
You could tell she was like, they were really tired, right? Weren't you? You and JR were like exhausted.
He's 41. So he was like, I need to sit down all the time.
And I'm like, let's go. We haven't ridden this one yet. Yeah. So I'm, you know, the youthful energy here.
It's weird how it happens as well, because I can remember just being like, that'll never happen to me. You know, I'm always going to be so up for the parties. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, no, apparently I'm not anymore.
I just want to sleep and take naps all the time.
It's so weird how it creeps up on you, isn't it?
Yes, it's freaking weird. So were there any characters that were your favorite to write, and if so, why?
In this book, I would say I really liked Dev. So he is Amira's boyfriend, but I just kept throwing in surprises with him. I loved the idea of this really sort of beautiful, he's a male model and he's just beautiful, but I love the idea of him being like incredibly intelligent and studying philosophy and just constantly surprising people, because you know, like they'd be like they just totally judged him on his looks. And then I loved that whole, I was just like, what else can I put in here that would just be like, oh no, we've really misjudged him. So I really enjoyed writing him. And I also really enjoyed writing Pippa, because as I said earlier, she's so straight talking, and she's the woman I'd like to be, because she, you know, in the sense that she can just articulate exactly what she wants to say whenever she wants to say it, and she doesn't care. Whereas I am completely the opposite, as you can tell. I'm all over the place. I wave my arms about permanently, and you know, I ramble a lot, and especially in confrontation, I don't say anything at all. Most of the time, if somebody, you know, if I'm confronted by somebody aggressive, I just go a bit mute, maybe squeak a bit, and then cry. You know, so I'd like to be more Pippa, who would just shoot them down with her words. It'd be great.
Yeah. We all
whenever you say Pippa, I think of Pippa Middleton, Kate Middleton's what's your Kate, you know, Kate,
yes, her sister.
Queen Kate, Princess Kate, yeah, her sister.
Yeah,
that's all I think of. So I love that. So what are you currently reading right now?
Right now I am reading so I'm listening to on audio the new, oh my goodness, what's her name? She just did the Christmas Murder Game last year, came out over here. And this year it's another Christmas murder, and it's on a train. Oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. Alexandra something. So that's really good. And I'm also reading the new Beth Garrett book, which is a YA called All the Jingle Ladies. And she had one come out last year called Blame It on the Mistletoe. I think it was called Blame It on the Mistletoe in the US. And it was, I can't remember what it was over here. But anyway, I read it. So I'm reading that, and that's really funny. Oh, and I just finished Just Like Magic.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read that?
Alice Hoffman?
No, it's Sarah Hogel, right? Sarah Hogel?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's so funny. Like, you know, when you read something, there's a particular scene, anyway, that was just, I was crying with laughter. It's just joyful, and it's really, that's a really good one as well. So yeah, see, I'm all over the place, even with my books. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Whoa.
I love that about you, though, because you know that makes you more relatable. For us, anyway. You know. But yeah, like I'm thinking Just Like Magic might be something good that I should read when it's been a hard day at work. So, but I
Yeah.
can't wait to read your books. Like I am literally, they're in my cart. I'm gonna go get them now when we get off of here. So yeah, but I don't have any more questions. Do you have anything else, Ash?
Well, really quick, your reading style reminds me of me too, because I have like 5 or 6 books right now in my Goodreads TBR that I'm currently reading. Am I currently reading all them right now? Maybe, maybe not, right? That reminds me of it. I'm like, yeah, I have like 5 books right around here, thrown around here. So that's funny. I love it. Very, very, very relatable. But before we go, what are you working on right now?
So I've just handed in, submitted a new manuscript, which makes it, I'm kind of nervous about it because, you never know if they're just going to read it and go, well, that was rubbish. So like, I feel quite stressed about it. But it's about the winter solstice, this one. And it's about 3 sisters who are estranged who have to come back together because their father, who they weren't really in contact with, he passed away, and he put in his will all these caveats of hoops they basically have to jump through in order to be able to benefit from his will. So it's sort of them coming together they have to sort of put together like a winter solstice. And so I've just submitted that. So I'm sort of, that was on the 1st. So yeah, I sort of did that, and then it's like I woke up on the 2nd and went, oh my God, it's Christmas, and now I haven't done anything. So
I love that.
Yeah, that gives me like kind of a warm feeling, It's like reconnecting with family, maybe when you haven't, because you're forced to, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully my publishers do.
Yeah.
Fingers.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because I know the process is so hard. It took me 10 queries to get picked up for mine. So my first book. So it's interesting. But I've always heard, I don't know if this is true, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always heard once you publish one, it's easier to like get another published.
I think it opens doors for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it basically means that more people are willing to look at it.
Yeah.
So that in itself, because before that, you're just really sort of chucking manuscripts about and hoping that one of them lands, aren't you?
Yes.
You did well to get in after 10 tries, because it took me 20 years. So so well done.
I'm like 39 and I've been writing since I was a kid. So if you count that, but
yeah,
sometimes it just takes the leap, right? Like the leap of faith that I'm just going to go and I'm going to write and I'm going to just send this in and hope that someone likes it.
yeah. I think when you've been doing it that many years as well, that you've got to keep going, haven't you? Because clearly, like you've been writing since you were a kid. You're not going to stop now. Do you know what I mean? It's that's that kind of thing where you're like, yeah, this is clearly me.
Yeah. Well, tell us where we can get your books and tell us the titles of your books.
So there's the 12 Dates of Christmas, A Season for Second Chances, and Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, which Ashley is modelling for me. Thank you, Ashley. And you can get them on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. The Fountain Bookstore is like, I love the Fountain Bookstore, even though obviously I've never been, but I love it. And there's another one called Curious Iguana, which I really like. These are like US bookshops, but because when I'm on Instagram, I'm like, oh, bookshop, lovely. So so they're all they're nice ones that I really like to stalk, on Instagram, like you do.
Yeah, I have to check them out, especially the iguana one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's called the Curious Iguana, but it's very pretty anyway.
Yeah. Well, we've enjoyed this, and thank you so much for coming on with us, and we would love to do this again with you sometime.
I would.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again, and
we'll have a good night.
Have a good night.
Yes, bye. And you. Bye.
Bye-bye.